Good morning and welcome to Vision Expo West 2024. Welcome to the innovation stage. We're thrilled to be here and present this morning Disrupting the Dropout Dilemma. Bold moves to keep consumers in contact lenses, presented to you by the Contact Lens Institute. Thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. We want to thank the Vision Expo for inviting us here to relay some really interesting data in its product for presses. And with that, we'll go ahead and begin. Thank you all for joining us here live, and for those who are joining us later. I wanted to introduce the Contact Lens Institute, telling you first what that means. Contact Lens Institute is the industry association for the soft contact lenses. And it's represented by the four major contact lens companies that you see: Alcon, Bausch & Lomb, Cooper, and J&J. We take on such initiatives as healthy wear and care for contact lenses. Also, we look for initiatives that will help grow the contact lens category or the contact lens market. Now, since 2021, we have been focused on a See Tomorrow initiative. You can find so many details on all the different data sets we've collected since 2021 at FBCLA or contactlensinstitute.org. But here today, we're going to relay some of our latest data. And what this is looking at consumer insights, both new wearers, long-term wearers, those who are not in contact lenses yet, and really how we can adapt our practices, how we can adapt our behaviors to better serve those individuals and ensure they have a great wearing experience. We also partner with visionaries, as you see here. So visionaries are eye care professionals across North America that advise the Contact Lens Institute. They also help to amplify the data that we're sharing out. And I'm pleased this morning to work with and have a discussion amongst three of our visionaries. And I will have them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Dr. Davison.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Janelle Davison. I practice in Atlanta, Georgia, which is about 10 minutes north of Atlanta. I am the CEO and founder of Raynard's Vision Center and Visionary Dry Institute. I'm very excited to be here.
Good morning. My name is Shalu. I practice in Toronto, Canada, and have a large practice there. I specialize in specialty contact lenses and fitting contact lenses. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Good morning. My name is Seymour. I'm a licensed dispensing optician here in Las Vegas, Nevada, for Yesnick Vision Center. We're a low vision clinic and a specialty into against whites.
And I'm Carla Mack. I'm the current chair of the Contact Lens Institute. And with that, we'll get right into our data. Let's just set the stage here a little bit. Recently, or in the last few years, there's been a paper called the SULLY data that's come out. And what it shows us is that a quarter of patients drop out in the first year when they start contact lens wearing. And of those, another quarter drop out in the very first month. And then half drop out in the second month. So we're getting a lot of this dropout very early on. So let's just set the stage with that and think about that as we look at our responses coming up to the data set that we'll share. Our latest data focuses on 400 soft contact lens wearers, 200 of those on new wearers, meaning they wore lenses 2 years or less. Another 200 have worn lenses for 2 years or greater. This was fielded by Protégé. It was fielded just last month. So we're just going to give you a very small portion of the data, and we'll have a full report coming out the next few months. So as we look at those, the data set that we did survey, you'll see that they started wearing lenses really across the gap here in terms of years. So in less than 2 years, half have been wearing lenses for less than a year, and about half for 1 to 2 years. And as we look at those long-term wearers, we've got half who've worn lenses for greater than 20 years, and half in that 2 to 20 years. So it's a really nice range of patients that might be. And again, this is a very small portion of this data set. There's a full report being put together that we will release in November. So we can look forward to seeing all of that. Okay. Let's get started with a conversation. So what we found is that when we asked about contact lens satisfaction, the great news, we had these patients record this on a 1 to 10 scale. So 8 to 10 was highly satisfied. And then if we look at the 8 to 10, you'll see amongst the longer term contact lens wearers, pretty good, 86% highly satisfied. And in the new wearers, 67%. So not as high as the high wearers or the longer term wearers. Really great news, very few are dissatisfied. It's taught me in your practices, we're going to start with you, Dr. Davison, what are the types of things that you do to ensure that these patients are satisfied, especially your new wearers, given that data that shows if they're going to drop out, they often do so very early on. What types of behaviors or things does your practice do?
So overall, this is good information to see that in general, contact lens patients are happy. But in my practice, I really take the step of making sure I'm ensuring the patient's goals. I want to know what they plan to use their contact lenses for. If they're new wearers, I really spend a little bit of time on that so that way I can make sure that I'm pairing the right innovation and the right modality for what they want to do with their contact lenses. And then for my established wearers, I don't forget about them as well. Sometimes they have older generation lenses, so I'm asking questions to make sure that the contact lenses are still meeting their needs. Some of them have been fitted with lenses maybe 2-3 years ago, and new innovation has come out. And especially some of my patients that kind of fall through the gap, which would be our stigmatic patients and presbyopic patients. They jokingly say your patients follow your age, and so I'm in my mid-40s now, and it seems like everybody's coming in wanting presbyopic lenses. And so those cases are definitely on taking extra time to make sure I'm setting expectations and meeting their goals.
I just want to say it's interesting that you say that about the toric and the presbyopic patients, because in that Sully paper, the data that we presented of them dropping out early, the reasons most cited were vision, and that gets worse for toric and then multifocal patients, and then comfort for some patients is the next one as well. So you mentioned those toric and multifocal patients. Do you have them back more often? Do you take more care with them? How do you manage that?
So I'm really good on setting expectations, right? So I've learned a lot of my toric patients, they haven't had options in the past. So especially if I can get them in something that is an easier modality, really set expectations, really define their goals. And then I use a lot of technology. I'm big on telehealth. So I incorporate telehealth as another checkpoint for my new patients, especially in those more advanced contact lenses, as well as I use inter-office messaging. So we have two-way text messaging. So we find that as a way to follow the patient. So we kind of hold their hand a little bit more, take a little bit more time to ask questions and answer questions like that.
Thank you. Dr. Powell, how about you?
So just jumping off where you left off with our new wearers, hand holding is really, really important. I think this group, when we think about what their needs are, they're new to this world. They're new to contact lenses. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to ask. They don't know maybe what their goals are. Their goals may change as they experience more. So I think more time with them, more attention to them, asking lots of questions, making sure we dive into what are the reasons why people would drop out, dryness, discomfort, vision, and asking those questions to make sure that we are pulling out the potential reasons why they could be dropping out. Because lots of time with them, lots of time in the exam room. And for me, when we're doing the insertion protocol, it's really important that that process is not rushed at all. I don't have as much time as our staff do, but our staff have lots of time to be able to sit with the patient, to be able to spend as much time as they need to answer all their questions, ensure that insertion protocol happens properly before they go on with the trials, explain that we need to see you back. If there are these concerns, you have to come back. So everything we can possibly do to hedge off or prevent any type of dropout, we're thinking about those in advance and making sure we try and forget that.
Just an additional question on that insertion removal case. Do you have ongoing conversations once they leave the practice then to encourage them, or how do you manage those situations?
So we pre-book their next appointment and we make sure that they know who in the office they can reach out to if they have any questions. And then when they come back to your follow-up, typically we think of a quick follow-up, right? Our follow-up is not quick. It's about, let's review everything. Do you have any questions? Let's go over the insertion protocol process. I will watch them when they're washing their hands to make sure that they're drying their hands. So if they feel that I care about the process, they're going to care about the process.
Jen, how about you?
You know, that actually speaks to a great point. We have two completely different ways that we can approach patients at the level, especially text messaging, which we are starting to implement in our office, but a lot of FAAO in the post. And it really comes down to being there with the patients, again, getting that satisfaction of listening to what they have, setting the expectations, giving them that guidance, being there in our office with a celebration when we feel eight patients. It really is. And the entire office knows exactly who's going to send them and who's going through that training process. And it's a lifelong here, isn't it? So everyone walks by and checks on it. And that kind of gives that positive that they know the entire office has their back. And that's kind of important too, because it goes from the front desk all the way back to the exam rooms where we monitor and train, and then over to the optical side to make sure we sell it, okay, make sure they know what they're getting, and talking, educating all about the cleaning care, but also the value that goes along with it. Knowing that if something goes wrong, we have their back. And where some people are afraid to speak up, we encourage them to speak up if there's a problem, because sometimes it's interesting.
I love that, Jen, that you said it's a celebration in the practice. I think head's nodding over here. I've never heard that before, and I think that's a really great way to do this because it's our day-to-day. It's not their day-to-day. It's a big deal.
And if I can step in on it, we actually have an actual hour we set it aside on a specific time of day. We was dedicated trainer at that time, and it's right actually. Any point spot but near it where we are. So as we practitioners are walking through, how's it going? How they doing? They got one in. Oh, great. And so it's these when it's all done and they come around, everybody in our front desk knows exactly what's happening in members. It's just everyone comes off the excitement there and that we can't put a price tag on that.
That's fantastic. It's really great information. Okay. Let's take a look at the next piece here. We talked about behaviors, in practice behaviors that can continue to encourage patients to stay in their lenses and have a great experience. And when we look at the top three things that rise to the forefront of those 20 behaviors, we've got change my contact lens prescription to adapt to changes in my life. And that's very important. We've had a little bit of a conversation about that already. Provides a diagnostic contact lens when recommending a new prescription. And then makes sure I know I'm going to take care of my contact lenses. Let's peel these apart just a little bit. Now, the first two really are around to kind of that lifestyle and then actual vision and prescription. And Shalu, why don't we talk with you about how you manage that in your practice?
So when it comes to setting goals, when we have a new wearer or an existing wearer, it's about what do you want to do as their contact lenses? When do you want to wear them? How do you want to use them? And we'll start the fitting process with that in mind. Halfway through the fitting process, I'll go back and reevaluate. Are our goals still the same? Have they changed? Because now that a patient has been wearing lenses and maybe having a first experience with them, you may say, my perception has completely changed. I didn't think I could do this with a cord. I only want to do this thing. And I reevaluate those goals to make sure that we are on the same page. And we don't just take that first thought, because that experience with the lenses can change their perception.
Jen, how about in your practice?
I think a lot of that comes down to, again, as we've all talked about, setting expectations, listening to kind of what their day-to-day is. And again, we know it's vision and comfort. Not being afraid to step up to a level and giving them that extra. So if that means we're going to move to presbyopic or we're going to move it to multifocal toric lenses, sometimes we just sit on the fence and it's just not as great. We just make that extra step. We really find that it just makes that wow moment and really just kind of has value. We help bring that value to make this. That I want this is separate.
And Janelle, what do you make of the last one there about making sure that they know how to take care of their contact lenses? It's interesting to me that it still rises pretty high even on that long-term wearer. But how do you differentiate that between the new and the long-term wearer? And again, what are the steps that your practice takes to ensure those?
It's a good one. I think we take for granted, especially our established wearers, what patients know. Surprisingly, patients, they know the basics when it comes to managing and taking care of their contact lenses. But it's still good questions, am I allowed to sleep in these contact lenses, or can I swim in them? Do I take showers in them? So I do make sure that I kind of run down in my spiel as I'm handing them, okay, great, contacts look great, vision's great. These are a few things you want to remember. So whether they're new or established, hey, don't swim in your contact lenses, especially not in first order. If you want to swim, let me know, because we may want to fit your daily lenses, or you still need to wear a goggle. Don't take a shower in your contacts, change your case. And so I'm like going through all these things, and I usually hit one, the established word, like, you know what, I never knew that. They say, well, so try not to assume what they know. So I try to make a conscious effort, whether they're new wear or established wear, to just run down some quick things that they should know that could overall affect their overall health if they don't know.
Just hitting on that middle point there about the trial contact lenses, I think it's really important that we create a great experience for our contact lens wearers. And it's so easy to do that with handing out extra trials. I always give more trials than maybe others do, or maybe that the patient would expect, so that they have enough time to experience the lenses in their environment. If they drop a lens or they rip a lens or something happens, I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm wasting time or money. I want them to have tons of extra lenses, so that they feel like, yeah, I'm winning at this, I'm getting more than I expected. So I think trials is really important to ease that little process of, we're gonna fit you with all wide lenses, you're not gonna spend any money on that. And we're going to make this perfect for you. We're going to satisfy your goals. We're going to make sure that you are totally satisfied before you actually have to make a payment or a purchase. And I think that really goes into creating a great experience for you.
One quick thing about the first one, you made a good point about kind of over-delivering. Sometimes patients don't know exactly what their goals are, and like you say, you may have to reevaluate those goals. So I may ask a patient, what do you plan on your contacts for? And they might be like, just pickleball, right? And they're in their mid-40s, but they're like, we're going to go to lunch afterwards. And they're not thinking that I want contacts just for distance activities, but what happens when I leave the pickleball court? If I'm going to have dinner or lunch. And so I talk to them and say, hey, I know you only want your contacts for this, but I'm going to make sure that if you have other activities that you hadn't thought about, that your contacts allow you to do that. So I think you made a great point that you asked about goals, but sometimes you have to kind of over-deliver and reset as well.
Sometimes they don't realize, because they don't know it until they literally out there is contact in, and they're like, oh, I can't, but I don't get there. So when you get to that point, like, we know, because we've seen it, like, sometimes we've been on the other side in the chair ourselves. I think when we take a look at what we are, and study grows extra, it makes the whole difference, and there's nothing. Also with us, I found being as a patient optician, being in the back exam rooms, I'm not afraid. Most of our patients have known me for years, because I've been all over the office, but I will step in. If I'm taking care of if I have my own patient, my own specialty health, and then there's another patient around, and they come up and they're doing their contacts right next to you, they're like, hey, you might want to make this adjustment, or do you remember this? I don't remember, kind of go through and you're like, hey, oh my gosh, I never knew that. There's plenty of times that happens, but also, right? I can't remember the study that goes along with it, but remember how much retention we have, and the first time we hear something and we're learning something, it's a percentage. So I'm sure that directly correlates to that as well, that we get to this point of we have to review every year, because we do forget 2-3 years down the road what can happen when we forget things.
Definitely hearing the repetition is key. We often say that we need to repeat things 7 times before somebody understands and remembers it. Well, let's take a look at some more of this data that's coming up. So it's important that the entire practice is present and represented for that contact lens wearing, and even more so for the new wear that was in their earlier years of wearing. So we recently released data that talked about getting more patients into contact lenses. And we talked about how the doctor carries a lot of weight, very much influential in the practice. We have to ask the patient about that. But when we look at continuing lens wear, the doctor's still carrying a lot of weight here. So is the rest of the practice. And so it does become a team effort. Dr. Davison, how does your practice function as a team to ensure, again, patients have great learning experience?
Yeah, I think it's important that we're all in one accord, reading from the same book. So I'm big on partnering with my reps. I do a lot of lunch and learns, retraining, where my reps come in regularly and kind of go over the innovation with the contact lens. And then I kind of set a tier, who's responsible for what. I'm big on teeing it up in the exam room. I like to kind of give a big overview of what the contact lens innovation and technology is, the warning schedule, some reminders, and then my team kind of reinforces that. So they'll be like, I know Dr. Davis said, well, don't let this in the home. Don't forget, this is what you can do, can't do, this we need you back for your follow-up. We're going to schedule your follow-up in person. Sometimes I do in person, sometimes I do telehealth, depending on the type of contact lens and how long the patient's been wearing them. So it's really going just a huge team effort in utilizing my contact lens representative and team to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, that's great. How about you, Shalu?
So it's interesting. My team is actually having a lunch and learn today with their rep. Every single team member is important. Every single team member needs to know all the details about contact lenses. Yes, some might be more experienced than others, but teaching all of them the same thing so everybody hears it, it's only beneficial to the patient because the patient now has more people that they can ask questions to. Right? So for us that have been doing this longer, we know this stuff. But for a patient, the more people that they have that they can ask questions to and get help from, the more reassuring it is that no matter who I speak to, I can get help. I think that's super important. Just remember that everybody in the team is important in this process.
Well, I can actually agree with that. Talking about each one of our staff, we have a staff of 20. So each of our staff is going through contact lens training, the contact lens wear. Everyone's been able to test every avenue of that as it comes up. We do, get around in the office, so not everyone kind of took a stab at it. We live in the desert, we're in Vegas. So we have our own unique challenges here all the time. But also to the point where our reps, we have worked with our reps so much that our partnership with our reps was incredible. And really, when they come in for their lunch and learns, it's that whole point of just being, we sit down, we have this conversation, we're very successful to begin with. So it's more or less just kind of what things are going on and nothing with technology, but sitting down with the front desk and sitting down, this is kind of going waves in the office for lunch. We don't stop for lunch. So taking that partnership that we have built, our reps in turn have built with us to make that easier too for our staff to then
all the way around. Just wanted to add one thing. Also, just to make sure the patient understands, like if the staff is trained and ready to go, but we don't encourage the patients to actually reach out to us, then we're all sitting there just waiting. So I tell my patient, hey, you're finalized, you're going to be great, you're approved for an annual supply. But if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to text us, email us, and then we have patient portal. Let's say if you message in the portal, it comes directly to me. In between patients, I can answer the question. So I encourage them to reach out to us. Jokingly the other day, I'll tell them too, is this the drop you can use with the contact lens if you get a little bit of dryness here and there? Patients are in the store texting a picture. I know Dr. Davison told me, is this the right one? And so they feel comfortable doing that. So everybody's important, everybody's going to be trained, but just make sure the patient knows it's okay to actually reach out to us so that we can utilize all that training that we have for them.
Absolutely. You're creating that safe space for them to feel comfortable to ask questions. It's great.
I do the same. I agree. It is. It's a safe space. My patients on different levels perceive, can I use this? Can we do this? Is this okay? Our team, all steps in, hey, so it makes a difference. So it's a long term. We've gotten that.
Yeah, it's really nice that you all are not making assumptions, right? You're making it obviously clear and saying what you want them to hear several times.
We can't make assumptions in the room. It's just not in our best interests.
All right, let's move on then. So when we look at trust, trust obviously will encourage that patient to listen to what they're running the practice. And what we found is that more time now with more trust. So when we think about that, what came out is sort of a median amount of time of 16 to 20 minutes is what these patients felt was adequate to build that trust. What do you think about that, especially balancing that time with the whole practice, so your time versus the rest of the staff in the practice?
So for me, I dedicate a little bit more time to my patients because this whole concept of time is about building a relationship. And you build relationships, which then lead to trust. And you need time in order to do that. You can't do that in 5 minutes. So I spend lots of time with my patients as much as I possibly can, but then I do a very intentional handoffs to my staff, and that the conversation can still continue. Again, going back to never wanting our patients to feel rushed and feeling that they have lots of time to get all their questions answered, make sure that they feel great leaving the office that hey, we've gotten everything that we wanted out of this experience. So my time is limited. I've got a schedule. I have to keep moving. My staff are not. So if a patient needs to sit there for an extra 20, 30, 40, for whatever amount of time it is, they know that they're allowed to do that. They're given that time to be able to.
And Chen, how about you, given your licensed optician? How do you play into this scenario?
You know, I think that's where the opportunity for opticians, licensed opticians, those who are educated on the field, get to pick up the ball. You know, I agree. You have a time frame, you have your set-to schedule where the beauty of the education that goes along with it, with knowing everything on the back end, where we can pick up the ball and answer those questions if knowing how, again, you relate in the room, knowing exactly what expectations, what statements are done in the room themselves, and then knowing that, coming out and reinforcing them, you taking that extra time to answer those questions. Sometimes you don't get a chance to do all the reviews and touch on all the base points. So as you know, with proper education and proper guidance as opticians, we take that time because we don't have one time. Chair time is incredibly important, and in some cases limited. 16 to 20 minutes is a typical appointment. Yeah, it's from beginning to end.
So I was just going to add in there, creating the production for time. You guys are going to be some of the time technology innovation, but I'm a tech girl. So I'm always trying to figure out how I can use technology and innovation to create that extra time. Time may not always be just understanding the lens itself, but we got the cost of the lens, you know, how do I reorder lenses? So I'm making sure I'm incorporating technology, whether it's calculation tools, whether it's technologists that reach out to the patient after they left the office, whether it's two-way text messaging, telehealth, portal, so that way they're getting that extension of time when they may not actually require physical time in front of them as me as the doctor or my staff, because we can easily answer a text message. We can easily use innovation to do quotes and show you what your price would be in the office versus sitting with our competitors. And so I always try to figure out how to incorporate technology and innovation to give that perception of time as well.
Delicate balance you all have to do here, so wonderful. Well, again, thank you for the amazing conversation as we tease out just a little bit of this information here today. And I want to invite everyone to attend this evening. We've got Habits, the eye docs of Rock. The Contact Lens Institute is partnering with them this evening, just like we did at Vision Expo East, and they will be singing a special song. We're turning them into the good habits from one song. You can find them at the let me say, I can't read this very well, the Cooking Bowl at the Link Promenade. So that's at 9 p.m. this evening. We hope to see you all there. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg on the data. We'll have a data set coming out to you in November, and you can find that at contactlensinstitute.org. Thank you all for joining us for this conversation today. Thank you, visionaries. It's very it's gracious. It's such a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you and hear what you all are doing in your practices.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob.